The words of Ecclesiastes, a season is set for everything, a time for every experience under heaven, a time for dancing, a time for wailing, a time for birthing, a time for dying, a time for speaking, a time for silence, a time for seeking, a time for losing. The time of mourning is a complicated time, filled with many emotions and memories, both bitter and sweet. We begin our service with the recitation of psalms and prayers, thus linking Eva's life with the 3,000-year-old tradition of the people of Israel and the eternity of God. I invite you to join with me in the recitation of Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Eshet Chayil miyimsa, what a precious find is an Eshet Chayil, a woman of valor. Her worth is far beyond rubies. Her husband Joseph put his confidence in her, lacked no good thing. She was good to him, never bad, all the days of her life. She opened her hand to the needy, extended to the poor. Eva was clothed with strength and splendor. She looked to the future cheerfully. She opened her mouth with wisdom. Her tongue was guided by kindness. She oversaw the activities of her household, never ate the bread of idleness. Her children come forward and bless her. Teresa and Alex of blessed memory, and her husband of blessed memory, Joseph, would have said, many women have done superbly, but you, Eva, surpass them all. Charm is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a God-revering woman is much to be praised. Extol her for the fruit of her hand, and wherever people gather, her deeds speak her praise. Dear God, this day be with us. Wrap us in your presence like a blanket. Comfort our saddened souls. And may this grieving family find solace in the love they share, in the devotion of friends and community, and in the knowledge of your sheltering presence. God, console us all in the faith that Eva lives on among us in every family celebration, in each of our smiling memories, in her devotion to friends and family. Dear God, Shomea Tefillot, hear our prayers, find favor in our dear one, a beloved wife, mother, grandmother, and great-grandmother, so cherished and admired. Shower your presence upon her. May she be welcomed into your presence, O God, forever. And we say, Amen. I know that two of Eva's grandchildren, Nate and Katie, would like to share a few words. We didn't talk about who would speak for first.
You can go first.
Katie.
Good morning. I'm Katie. I am Eva's second grandchild. I have an older sister and a younger sister that weren't able to come. And over the last week, I've been kind of trying to think of what to say, but also avoiding it because I didn't want to think about it. And I had a really hard time coming up with how to express anything that even comes close to telling what Grandma was. So I'm going to start with something my younger sister wrote. I'm sorry. Grandma, coming up with how much you mean to us is so hard to put into words. You represented to us the best of humanity and a catalyst in our lives. You endured so much in your life, from the camps to losing your husband and your son too early in their lives, leaving your home and family to start a new life here. Through all of this, you showed up over and over again to give love, support, and to be there for those in the present. You walked so many paths: survivor, wife, mother, business owner, grandmother, great-grandmother, caretaker, and friend. You accomplished so much and showed us the way in how to live a meaningful life, to walk in the path of grace, love, bravery, and continually pursuing something more, not just for ourselves, but for our family. Through the years of being children and growing into adults with our own families, you have remained our personal hero. We will miss you every day and hope that we may live up to the person you were in this life and continue to make you proud through the next. We love you, Grandma, and will carry you, your love, and bravery with us everywhere. When my younger sister sent my older sister and I that, we were both like, that's perfect. We're done. That's great. But now that I'm standing here, I'm remembering all of these amazing things about my grandmother. One thing that always stood out to me that I've told countless people is her perspective on life was so unique and incredible. She always spoke of how blessed she was, and out of so many terrible things that she lived through, to still have that amazing perspective and to always find the good in things and good in people. I don't know lots of details of the story, but I know when my dad met my mother, who is not Jewish, my grandmother got a lot of flack from some of her friends that my dad was going to marry somebody who is not Jewish, and she didn't take it. She was like, nope, I don't care. Like, if that's how you feel, then I'm done with you. But so I respect that a great deal about her. She always wanted to help people, and she took pride in the fact that she always took care of people that were younger than her. She always liked to brag that, like, oh, I go to Cleta and I take care of her, and she's younger than me, and I can still do it. She also always bragged about how good at math she was, and that in her 90s she could still balance her own checkbook. She was very proud of herself with that. One funny memory that just came to me today is almost every time I'd visit, and I would visit Grandma quite a lot, especially since my children were born, because I wanted them to have a relationship with her. So I'd come a few times a year with the kids. And every time she'd talk to me about this fruit diet that she told me that I put her on. I said, I don't know what you're talking about. And she said, it was the best diet ever. I just ate fruits for 2 weeks and I lost all this weight. And she was even in her 90s. She was still talking about the way she looked and how much she weighed and what diet she was on. She was so funny. My dad, who we lost way too young, he loved her unconditionally. And he loved his sister unconditionally. He'd always talk about how much he loved his family, how important they were to him. He'd send my grandmother flowers all the time. He talked to her on the phone every day, especially once long distance when cell phones came and you could do that. Without long distance, it was every day. But I remember as a kid, my dad would call my sisters. We'd all come into the room and be like, Grandma's on the phone, come talk to her. Every single time, we each had to take our turn talking to Grandma, and I know it meant a lot to her. Mostly I'm grateful that my children, who are now 10 and 8, they will remember my grandmother. They knew her, they loved her. My son, who's 10, he's named after my father, and it was really amazing how from the moment they met each other, they had a connection. I mean, it seems silly to say, but even as like an infant, as a little toddler, my son just immediately was drawn to my grandmother, just loved her so deeply. And you ask the kids anytime, like, if we could go on any vacation, where would you go? And the very first thing they both say is Cleveland, to see Grandma. So, anyway, I don't even know if that's close enough to express what she meant to us, but we all love her so much, and she will be missed. Thank you all for being here.
for being here, everyone. It means a lot to us. What can I say would be a grandma phone call checklist I have every time I call her. Every time. How are you, Grandma? What can I say? And, she'd say all these things like, oh, I can't do it, I'm so tired, but she always carried on. And she was a woman who left kind of a quiet, supportive perseverance along with unconditional love for everyone she met. She's seen a lot, and she can say a lot, but she chose not to. Holocaust survivor, refugee, immigrant, raising her kids, running a business, and this led to her leaving a legacy. And through thick and thin, she moved forward and approached everything with positivity. Like she braved the snowy, grueling, unforgiving conditions in the camps, and still she moved forward, finding the light and finding friends and supporting them, taking care of them as well as herself. And it shows how she always pushed forward with perseverance and was always a cornerstone of support. She ran a family, a business. She came here with nothing, and she was just a loving grandparent and great-grandparent. And not once did she get frustrated or complain when it got hard with us. And instead she smiled, and I still remember her chasing myself and my sister in Lyndhurst, even though she couldn't because she was in her 70s. She still tried to run and chase me, and that was nice. And not once, she always wanted to do things herself. Not once did she let me pay for any of those Saturday 5th Avenue deli lunches. And every time I'd call these past 5 years when Mom would go visit, she'd say, I can't do it, but there was always that perseverance inside of her that would just keep going. And she lived such a life, and she lived to 98 years old, and she still persevered and carried on. And 2 weeks ago when I saw her in hospice, I realized a lot of people ask me, why don't you ever ask for help? Why do you try to take on everything? And I realized that it's my grandma, and she's in all of us today. Now, our family, we almost never ask for help because she came to this country, she started her business, she raised the family, and she always found time to support us. And she always wanted to do good in the face of evil, make time for loved ones, face the daily challenges of life. And I still remember taking her to the grocery store, and I should have gone and gotten the stew meat, but she said, no, Nathan, hold the cart, I'm going to get the stew meat. And she would walk herself over using other people's carts, get the stew meat, toss it to me, and she would walk herself back with those carts, and then she'd say, take the groceries, and she would just toss the cart in the middle and say, let's go. And that's kind of how Grandma approached things, always with a smile, always with a perseverance, as well as unconditional love and happiness in a world that challenged her with darkness. And Grandma chose to win every day, and all of our family are proof of that. So we love you, Grandma.
Thank you, Katie and Nate. Really honored your grandma with those words. It is a fearful thing to love what death can touch. A fearful thing to love, hope, dream to be an ode to lose. A thing for fools this, and a holy thing to love. For your life has lived in me, and your laugh once lifted me. Your word was gift to me. To remember this brings a painful joy. 'Tis a human thing, love, a holy thing, to love what death has touched. Looking back on Jewish history, perhaps the most reliable thing of all is that we are a people built on resilience. It is fitting then that we have just completed the observance of the festival of Passover, our master story of overcoming adversity from oppression, finding redemption in a new circumstance. Like the biblical Abraham and Sarah, we have many examples of our ancestors who have braved the challenges of starting a new life, finding the resolve to pave a new way. We called it Lech Lecha, or Lechilach, moving forward into a new unknown. It is this kind of resilience that was exemplified in the life of Eva Spielberger Mandula. Born to Moritz and Teresa Spielberger in Banyarts, I hope I pronounced that right, a small rural town in Hungary. Moritz was a butcher and her mother a homemaker. Even though there were few Jews in Banyarts, Eva grew up surrounded by loved ones, with extended family coming together for the High Holy Days. She mentioned in her testimony to the Spielberg Foundation, everyone would descend upon this little peasant home and spend time together. Even though they lived a humble life, Eva and her family were happy until she witnessed increasing anti-Semitism in her own town by people her family knew. Sadly, her dad was beaten by townspeople simply because he was a Jew. And as the Nazi hold on Hungary grew stronger, Eva moved to Budapest and worked in a factory. It was still safe for Jews, even late in the war. Ultimately, her mom and her youngest sister were killed in the camps. And in 1944, Eva was transported to the Ravensbrück concentration camp and then to Dachau. Half a year later, Eva was liberated in 1945. Friends, you've heard that Eva had a hard life. We won't go into the details, but know that there's so much more to this story, so much more of what this woman witnessed, that it would shake any of us to have to witness what she did, to have to undergo the conditions she had to undergo in the camps. Extraordinary. Just an extraordinary woman with such resilience to live to the ripe old age of 98 and to have many chapters in her life. Following the Holocaust, Eva was miraculously reunited with her 2 brothers and 3 sisters. She met her husband Joseph, also a survivor, and they married in 1946. Joseph was a freedom fighter, which culminated in the Hungarian Revolution of 1956. And when authorities discovered that Joseph was involved in the uprising, he himself was targeted. And Eva, Joseph, and their young son, Alex, may his memory be a blessing, were helped by a philanthropist in the American community, transported to Camp Kilmer in New Jersey. Joseph had family in Cleveland, and their travels of transition after great challenge had them put roots down in Cleveland. Eva's first job in Cleveland was cleaning houses, and then she found work in the garment district of Cleveland, working for a wholesale distributor. Eva would send samples to her family back in Hungary, and they were the best dressed in town. She also co-owned a gourmet coffee shop before selling it to spend winters with Joseph as snowbirds in Florida. Sadly, Joseph died shortly thereafter. Eva, ever the independent-minded doer, sprung into work again, volunteering for Jewish Family Services in Florida, caretaking for seniors, many older, some younger, And she was really proud of that. And of course, in Florida, she was always sporting her white capri pants. Looking back now, we can trace the lines of her life and see that Eva and Joseph lived the American dream long after many other Jewish immigrants came to these shores. Eva represented so much of what was good about America. She was a hard worker, took nothing for granted, embraced freedom and democracy, something that she hadn't experienced early in her life. And still, Eva lived like a new immigrant. She paid for everything in cash. And yes, for her grandchildren, she would sneak dollar bills, more than dollar bills, to her grandkids, thinking that their parents didn't notice. And she was tough, independent, resilient, a life shaped by trials and travails. You know, to some who didn't know her story, she might have appeared to be this meek senior citizen in her advanced years. I still picture me talking to her just by the front office. So kind, very quiet. It was hard to know that she spoke really good English because, you know, she wouldn't be too forthcoming with me, but she was the driver of everything in the home. She was a force. She was the stubborn woman who facilely made decisions without hesitation. Eva loved being a mom to Alex, Teresa, a grandparent to Greta, Katie, Margot, Nathan, and Sydney, a great-grandmother to Levi, Lane, Corinne, Alex, and Anna. The kids have fond memories of visiting their grandma in Florida and playing games. Sydney remembers Eva not only letting her win board games, but she even overlooked it when Sydney outright cheated before her eyes. Eva always loved receiving a postcard from a new place in the world where Sydney had visited. She saved each and every one. And Eva adored the good people who married into the family as well. Joan and Mitchell, Michael and Nick and Marcus. After Alex's passing, she maintained a loving relationship with Joan. You were part of the family, Joan, as your daughter mentioned. And Mitch could do no wrong. I mean, we already know that. Especially because she and Mitch shared the same birthday. But Mitch said she took me in like her son. Eva was a devoted swimmer, a lifelong card and game player. Rummy Cube was a favorite. She enjoyed doing needlepoint. She made squares for the baby blankets created by the women of Fairmount Temple for Temple newborns. She was a good cook, making all the Hungarian specialties, chicken paprikash, goulash, beef stew, balinces. All of those recipes, Teresa, you adopted into your own repertoire, and Eva would humbly tell Teresa that you actually cook those dishes better than I do now. Teresa, you carried so much these past years. So many who love you in this community know it too well. So much as your mom declined, but you did it with the same toughness and resilience that your mom had shown throughout her life. You truly lived up to the fifth commandment: honor your parents. Your children have seen that sense of devotion and loyalty. And through your actions, you have taught them the value of Rahmanis, of being a person of chesed, being a person of kindness, caring for a loved one, even when it's not easy. Those are the tests that we face in our lives. When it's not convenient and not easy, and we get up each day trying to give back to those who gave so much to us. Just like Abraham and Sarah. Eva was a resilient trailblazer in her 98 years of life. In Hebrew we say, Lechi Lach. For each one of the journeys Eva took, we think of that moment of Lechi Lach. And now we say again, Eva, Lechi lach. Go forth. Go forth, Eva. We be with your love, Joseph. Lechi lach. Go forth and bless him. Lechi lach. For your memory will forever be a blessing to those who live here on earth and will remember your name with enduring blessing too. And together we say, Amen. We invite family to rise to their seats for the chanting of Elmole Rachamim, my colleague Cantor Lake.
רחמים שוכן במרומים המצא מלוכה נכונה תחת כנפי השכינה במעלות קדושים וטהורים כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים את נשמת חווה בת מורץ ומרים שהלכה לעולמה בגן עדן תהיה מנוחתה אנא בעל הרחמים הסתיריה בסתר כנפיך לעולמים וצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתה אדוני הוא נחלתה ותנוח בשלום על משכבה ונאמר Amen. Exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure to the soul of Eva, who has gone to her eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that our loved one find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May her soul be bound up in the bond of life. Rest in peace. May she rest in peace. And let us all say, Amen. We take this time now to continue with the Kaddish praise. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah Be'alma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei B'chayechon u'vyomechon u'chayei b'chol beit Yisrael Ba'agalau v'zman kari v'imru. Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach ve'olam lomei omaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei d'kudisha v'richu Le'emala min kol birchata v'shirata Tush v'chata v'nechemata Damiran be'alma v'imru Yehei shalom rabba min shemaya Chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yivru Oseh shalom b'mromav V'yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimru. May the source of peace and peace to all who mourn, comfort to all who are bereaved. We say together, Amen. We want to, this time and place, we want to invite family to fill in the earth. To those who are uninitiated with Jewish practice, it may seem like strange to put soil into the grave, but for us it's the opposite, our opportunity to take care of our loved one.
partakers of this stuff. You may step forward at this time.
Jay, family's gonna head back. Okay.